My name is Munir Bughanem. I'm a policy advisor at the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi. Welcome to this session, and I'm honored to be the moderator of this session about transforming retail waste into profit. This topic is very close to my heart, as in the previous session, Seneca was talking about our single-use plastic policy in Abu Dhabi. I've been leading the development and the implementation of that policy. And of course, talking about single-use plastic leads us to talk about the whole material flow. I will try to be louder. Usually, I prefer to talk about avoidance before I talk about recycling, though the focus today is about recycling of retail waste. As you know, the world current practice is moving into an era where we're going to have, according to our claim as environmentalists, for each ton of plastic, we will have 3 tons of fish in the sea by 2025, and our expectation that plastic in the ocean would be more than fish by 2050. So talking about transforming that into green gold, as the title of the, where is it, somewhere, the session, is very challenging. It is very interesting. Can we create out of that resource a real profit, not only for the operators, not only to the retailers, but for the community at all? Can we reach a stage in the Middle East here to develop a profitable business out of that and divert a large quantity of this material from marine and terrestrial environment? Well, to answer those questions, I'm delighted to welcome, and other questions perhaps, I'm delighted to have our panelists here today with us, starting with Seneca. Seneca Cotton is a friend, is a passionate person, and she's heading the sustainability at Al-Shaya group. I have Mr. Aliyo Muhammad Ali. Hi, Aliyo. He's the founder and CEO of Ahfaz, and you're going to tell us a little bit about Ahfaz a bit later on, which is a circular economy and a closed-loop resource recovery startup. And a challenging name for me, Mr. Andre. Wait a minute. Willem Brecht. Good. And he's the managing director of Zuex Processing Middle East. And last but not least, Mr. Walid Esbaite. And Mr. Walid, he's a Kuwaiti entrepreneur who's engaged in providing recycling services through a certifiable process. And I'm happy to be moderating the session together. The first question is for all of you, and I would start with you, Seneca. Can you describe Al-Shaya approach in transforming the retail waste throughout your network into a profitable, into profit?
Yeah. We started 3 years ago with sustainability in general with the company. And one of the first things that I identified was that we have a waste problem. We have a lot of waste operationally, and then our products end up in the waste stream. And in the countries where we operate, waste is a challenge already. So what do we do with that waste? Then my boss, who's here, the COO, Steve Vickerstaff, one day he called me and said, hey, you have to clear out the warehouse of all of this stuff, and yeah, by the way, it's 2,000 pallets of materials, and you need to do it in 10 days. Yeah, that was the request. And from there, I mean, we had already started working with Waleed prior to that with e-waste. And everyone already knows that e-waste is profitable. Like, you can make money from e-waste. So everyone wants e-waste. So that's easy. That's very easy to get rid of. But when you have a warehouse full of other stuff, furniture, old stock, pallets, all of that stuff that's in a warehouse, what do you do with that stuff? Oh, I forgot to tell you, my boss said, I want you to recycle it all. That was also, that was also the request.
I like your boss already.
And what's really nice is that we've made some really good relationships with our vendors, Waleed being one of them. And he kind of was like, okay, let's do it. Let's figure it out. And so we have a really good model that we work with. And a lot of it is based on trust. A lot of it is based on familiarity. And we have a really good working relationship. And so he was able to work with us in order to transform the majority of those items, and then share with us the benefits that come from recycling plastic, metals, what else did we recycle? E-waste, everything. So we had everything. I think how many? We had like 8 trucks, 10 trucks? Yeah. Oh, I'm wrong. 42 trucks worth of stuff, and it took us a while, and that's where the patience and the trust come in. It took a while, but he's able to transform that, tell us where it went, and like I said, and he's the conduit through which we share profits. So we provide him the stuff, he finds something to do with it, and we can trust that we know where it's going in every instance. So we did generate income from that, and we often don't think of it that it actually costs in this region to dispose of all of this waste. So the more that you can recycle, the less expense you have as a business. So it's not just earning cash, it's reducing your expenses as well.
And that was in your headquarters in Kuwait, I could imagine?
That was in Kuwait, yeah.
So did you transform that into a kind of a overall company policy across your big retail network?
So now, for all of our store closures, we've partnered with recycling companies in all of our major countries to come into our stores when we're closing our stores, pull out anything that's recyclable.
Okay.
And again, they share the profits with us so that we minimize the amount that's going to landfill. And we're working with our suppliers every day to find, solutions for as many items as possible. So, and it is part of our policy now, and we do that with every closed store. And we've done the same exercise that we did with the 2,000 pallets. We've done that in all of our major warehouses.
Okay, thank you, Seneca. Waleed, can you explain from your side,
Sure.
Was it the first big project you've had? Can you explain a little bit more about how you are engaged in this business and what is the model you're following?
What is the saying? As an entrepreneur, you jump first and then you learn how to make
How to
your
do
wings. Actually, so my story started 6 years ago. I funded my project from a non-profit government financing fund in Kuwait called the SME Fund of Kuwait. Finance background, I had no clue what to do with recycling. I just understood there was value there. So this was 6 years ago, and it is very difficult to fix the problem of what starts, the source or the selling. I realized selling commodities is a piece of cake. Finding commodities, moving them, segregating them, processing them, doing everything that goes into the recycling field was very difficult. And the final step is the easiest. Not because I'm invited by Shire, but really I have to commend how personally I was able to build this business and learn throughout the sheer quantity as well as the categories that came out of their operations. And it made me realize very quickly that to collect waste from homes You have to mandate a system that unfortunately punishes or penalizes the consumer by making them pay some sort of fine for not recycling properly, or asking them to pay for a membership to recycle, because the process is not easy and it's costly to do the logistics and the handling and the recycling. But when it comes to retail, a single job was 42 40-foot containers, just one job. And there was everything in there, from plastics to metals to electronics that were perfectly fine for resale, to even shredded wood. So we started going to the market to understand what can we do with shredded wood, and we realized we could sell it to chicken farms. They put it as chicken lay and they buy it in quantities. And like that, really there's an example to be said about every single category of waste. So yeah, through their sponsorship and the support of their necessity to offer a sustainable solution, we've really been able to grow with them as an anchor client to learn and to grow our operation to be able to offer these services. And that's what made me realize, you know, FMCG companies or retail companies, when you hold 20, 30 tons of a single component that expires or that is no longer carried, you need to be held responsible as a retailer with what to do with it. Because it is never going to, you're talking about as much waste as thousands of people generated in a single event, you know. So for them to take responsibility and to say, we'd like to speak about every single one of these categories and find solutions in them, and for us to be able to work in a symbiotic way of everyone financially benefiting from this, I have taken it upon myself to never ask for money, actually, even if the equation tips in my favor. There's a lot to be said for sponsoring this project as well. I'll pass it to the other gentlemen who have wonderful examples also to do with Shaya to cover as well.
Okay, before we move to the others, she spoke about sharing profits, you spoke about sponsorships. So how the model works, especially for lower value types of waste?
Very good. So the idea that we pitched to Shaya was very ambitious at the beginning, and it was rejected immediately at the time, but then they realized, wait a second, this could actually work in our favor, which is we take a fee to process every single kilogram of material that comes to us. This is also a similar idea to tipping fees. So the reason why the UAE has been very strict on tipping fees and increasing them is because it's forcing companies and individuals to find other solutions. Instead of dumping that waste, let me give that money to a company to do something with it. So through some sort of fee per weight, fee for the logistics, we were able to just make some sort of income by receiving all this material. And then from there on, segregation by category and being transparent by what kind of income we can generate. 10 tons of steel made us 10,000 dirhams. Based upon our agreement, I charged you for that material to be moved to my facility. And guess what? There's 2,000 dirhams left at the end. Let's share that profit. So for them, they're making money out of waste, whereas it used to be a cost to bulldoze or to destroy this material and landfill it. Now they're getting reporting by the kilogram, which we're increasingly trying to improve. And they're making money while they're doing it, as well as supporting about 20 families that I employ and supporting an SME. It's really commendable, and I've been preaching to people to actually get into this on a larger scale. You know, it's not the type of business where you want to push away competition. There's so much waste. Whoever would like to join, please join in on the cause.
Thank you, Walid. Zuwex, Andre, can you tell us how you are making money at your end, explaining your model in this?
I would love to, yes. Don't copy it. No, copy it, please.
Because I was reading your bio and you've been engaged on taxes and things like that. So
exactly.
It would be interesting to talk about money with you.
Would love to. Yeah, so I'm the managing director of SOEX Processing Middle East, as you just said. What do? We recycle textile. So we look at the waste hierarchy. We say, you see this suit or whatever you are wearing today, will I use it the next years? Hopefully yes. and then I don't want it anymore, or it gets ripped or torn. Or
So you
whatsoever.
work on textile only, recycling textile?
Textile and shoes we are focused
Okay.
on, exactly. Like, we are not everyone's darling, we can't solve everything, so we focus on textile and shoes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can do other things as well, but especially
And from
textile.
where do you get your feedstock?
From all over the world, actually. We started therefore with Alshaya as its retailer. We have post-consumer take-back systems that retailers say, well, bring us your unwanted or not fitting whatever broken items, textile and shoes, and we recycle them.
Can you explain a little bit further? Because I know, for example, Alshaya, they have retailers, and the retailers, they have contracts with waste operators. So do you get this material from your waste operators or from
No,
other?
we get it from the retailers, for example, directly from Alshaya.
So it's
free-
not waste yet. It's something
that's
to
the
become
question.
waste.
Sometimes it could be waste, therefore the waste hierarchy.
Okay.
Can it be reworn? Is somebody willing to wear it again on this planet? Or does it have to go into reuse, used for wiper or rags or whatever? Or does it go into the actual recycling? So when you say recycling, there are two steps before. We try to extend the lifespan, that it can be used as long as possible. And if it's really number 1 and 2 not an option, then we go into number 3, the actual recycling process. And then we talk about chemical and mechanical recycling. Then we just look at the material. Then we take it apart and don't use it long as it was created.
Mm-hmm. So, and do you have any other feedstock from waste operators, from material recovery facilities?
Not out of this region, interestingly. But we are working on it. Yesterday there was a panel on it. EPR, we heard it in the panel before now, is coming.
Okay.
Abu Dhabi is working on it. I heard yesterday already. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that. Yeah.
I'm the moderator now. I will ask the
I'm
question.
so sorry. Just want to get some information here. No, so we get it from all over the world. You know, we have these classical donation bins in the streets. So where people say, I don't want these items anymore for X and Y reasons, and give it away. So instead of dumping it, it goes to landfill, incineration, burn it, we take care of it that it goes the right way. And when we look at it, not even 1% worldwide gets into this process. So many people, yesterday as well, Abu Dhabi is pushing that a lot, that we gather and collect that it's not ending up in the household waste.
Thank you very much. Mr. Aliyo, احفظ. I know احفظ in Arabic means conserve.
Yes, actually.
Can you explain further? What do we have to conserve?
So we define it as to protect, to conserve, and when Muhammad and I, my co-founder, 5 years ago, we've been living here for almost 20 years, and we just couldn't understand why a lot of food was going to landfills. There was a lot of advocacy online, but there weren't enough solutions. And we just got fed up a little bit because from an entrepreneurial point of view, we saw also that it's easy to turn food into compost and many other things, animal feed. But there wasn't enough of the solution, or we weren't leveraging technology, for example. And that's where the idea of IFAS kind of started, to say, how do we protect the environment by making sure these products, packaged or not, don't go into landfill? And then how do we make sure that we make money out of it? Because at the end of the day, lights have to be kept on. And we said, what's the biggest issue today? Yes, it's food, so let us not just focus on windrow composting, the way my grandmother used to do it, but let's add technology. And we looked around the world, we found technology that was able to turn that food into compost or soil, if you like, in 24 hours using technology, rapid biophilic thermodigestion. And with just a little bit of savings, we talked to a few family and friends, we got a warehouse in Dubai Science Park and we started. And thanks to Seneca's team and Alshaya, they jumped on board, they gave us a try among some of the other manufacturers. And today we're able to, I think in 2022 alone, we did 100,000 plus kilos of food that did not end up in landfill, but was supplied to farmers that animals ate or that crops were grown with. So that's in a nutshell where the idea came from, somewhat adjacent to what Walid was doing for them in Kuwait.
The same question that I asked to Andre, I think your feedstock, and the quality of the feedstock, because most of the food waste usually is mixed with plastic, with packaging, with wrapping material. So what is the quality of the feedstock, and to what extent that quality is affecting your output? So bad in is bad out, in theory.
So today, in the middle of Dubai, in a warehouse, we're able to produce 100% premium grade compost
Okay.
with technology. It requires 180 degrees centigrade of temperature, but we can do it. We can also produce soil topper, soil enhancer, and this we've tested again and again and again.
How are you removing plastic and other types of content?
So again, our mission of giving youth resources a new life means we have to add technology. If it is, let's say, packaged food sausages, let's say, there is machinery that can separate the packaging to some extent, maybe get you a 70-80% of that material, thereby minimizing manual labor. That means you get to the farms faster. There is, in the segregation, like Waleed mentioned, and the sorting process, there has to be a little bit of human intervention to make sure that we unbox. Then you can recover the cardboard, which is money. You can recover some of the plastic or some of the metals, depending on the type of material that you have. But you can do it. If you go to our facility in Dubai Science Park, you will see machinery that is able to do any of these, whether it comes in aluminium packaging or to some extent even Tetra Pak. We can extract the contents of these packages and go through what we do.
And what do you do with the rest?
So, like I mentioned, cardboard, again, is money, gold. We work with UPM, for example, and Alpha Emirates, who can turn it into new cardboard. Plastic, in some of our operations, we do need plastic. As I was telling him earlier, we're working on something called corncrete, and that, I think the strength of the final product, plastic helps. And then we work also with companies that are able to either help us upcycle it. If it is high volume or maybe not too recyclable, then we go to those off-takers that are able to have some kind of solution for it. Metals, obviously, we know there are multiple solutions for that. And whatever else comes through us, we can probably find some kind of intervention and come up with practical ways that we have added value.
Okay, so in a yes or no answer, do you share profit with Al-Shaya as well?
No.
Okay.
What we do with them, this is I think credit again to their team, and I think Waleed alluded to that a little bit. We actually charge them.
Okay, I wanted to ask her. I want to ask her. Okay, so actually it cost Al-Shaya, because I know at the beginning of the discussion we're saying we're transforming this into profit.
Yeah.
And Waleed's model is that he's sharing profit, and then, so I asked him the question: what happens to the lower value type of waste? So you are charging them. I will move to my next question with you. What does it take to scale it up, your operations? What is the biggest challenge you're facing in scaling it up at a more broader level, to go beyond the Shaya, to go beyond, to be the main provider of high quality compost in the region, coming from waste?
So among other things, what I want to point out for us is the main issue in terms of scaling is infrastructure. So you need space, not for the final output, but for receiving the materials in the first place. We've scaled from one facility to another, and we're in the middle of scaling again. So the model for us is two. When we're processing, we need space, but then when we have the output, for example, the compost or some of the other products that we make, we can easily ship it practically anywhere around the world. But here in this country, in this region, it is capital intensive. We typically, in the past, used to get lumped up with waste management providers, meaning they wanted us to go to the edge of town, you know, to the kachra places, as we call it. And we had to fight that a lot and really differentiate ourselves today. So that's what I would prefer to highlight.
Okay, Seneca, from your experience, what do you think the major challenges are in transforming the whole set of retail waste into profits into the region, apart from the being driven by a request to sort out 42 trucks in 10 days by your boss?
I'm going to have to agree with Aliou. it's infrastructure. We've got a lot of waste, right? And there's a lot of waste in this region that needs to be handled. I found some really good providers that can do that. But when you scale this up and you look at, you know, the Shaloub groups, the apparel groups, and they want to do something similar, we don't have the infrastructure to do that. These guys don't have the space. They don't have the manpower. And it's expensive, right? It's a very expensive endeavor to go into this. So it's really the infrastructure. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is law. We really need the regulation to get more people to do it, because I don't think that people know that this exists. So we need some help letting people know that this even exists. Mm-hmm. I did a lot of research before I found these guys. A lot of talking to a lot of people, and you can see that this is here, but if you ask, you know, a Shaloub or an apparel group, I don't think that they know that these guys exist or that these opportunities exist. Because even with SOEX, for example, we are in our agreement, we provide the textiles from different countries. They don't pay us, but we don't have to pay to get the textiles to them. So normally they would charge shipping costs. You would have to ship your own stuff to SOEX from Kuwait or from KSA or wherever, because they're pretty much the only gig around, right? They're the only textile recycling at this scale that we require in the region. So we have to get the stuff there. So our arrangement is that they do all of the shipping instead of paying us for the waste or the textiles. But again, we don't have infrastructure. We don't have in KSA. We don't have textile recycling. We just don't have the infrastructure to spread this across the region.
Thank you. And Andre, in your views, in SOEX and perhaps through your own work, how does it differ from what is being practiced internationally to what is happening in the textile recycling in the Middle East? I know that you're looking to somebody who works in the government, so perhaps you're looking for some regulations. I can help with that, but we'll talk about it later on.
Okay. It was like, you ask again for my question. No,
Yeah.
It's a lot of push principle. What we heard earlier before in the panel as well, it gets pushed, especially in Europe, a lot, so that the lawmakers and the public policy makers decide that you have to do something. As unfortunately sometimes the private sector and as well the public sector are not as fast as they could or should. So when we see that it's coming 24, 25 EPR, we have it in France already since many years, that whenever you import something, textile garments, or you produce it, you have to pay a certain fee. Now the Netherlands have it, Netherlands take it by kg, France by piece. So for every shirt you import, you pay a certain fee. Then the policymakers take these funds and allocate it along the recycling chain, let's say it like that. That's the public sector. Then you have the private sector, and there it comes to education. So when you look at it, do you have a general recycling setup? Do you separate waste, paper, carton, plastic, compostable waste, etc.? Or you just put it all in one bin? If you have already the separation, it's very easy to introduce another one, like textile and shoes. So here we see it in the public realm, in the streets, etc., but it can be pushed even further.
Okay, thank you. Walid, from your perspective, again, moving between international practice to local practice, instead of, you said you jump as an entrepreneur and you start learning how to fly. So have you learned from international best practice in what you do? And is there anything that we can generate from this part of the world in the other direction in terms of our own story?
Look, I mean, the guy summarized it. It's education and regulation. And when I say education, I've used this example plenty of times in the past. When I first went to study in the US and lived in a house of 3 people, and first thing we did is take some garbage outside of the house. And a week later, we had a fine for $60 in the mail. And I couldn't understand why. I was raised in a country that is extremely wealthy, and these services are normal. They're expected, you know. Put the garbage in the bin, next morning it's disappeared. So unfortunately, a lot of people in Kuwait still argue with us as a company because they don't understand that. They don't understand that we are blessed by having all these services for free. That through taxation and through other fees and penalties, these things should cost a lot of money to do. So we get a call, we charge 60 dirhams for a home pickup of material. We get calls of people haggling with us for about 15 minutes as to why this should be a free service. So I don't blame them. I argue for about 15 minutes to convince them, and usually by the end of the 15 minutes they're convinced. They understand that I'm hiring people, location, vehicles, fuel, machinery to offer that service. So waste, I don't want to say waste management, but recycling or processing material is an industrial operation like any other industrial operation. It cannot be free of charge. It's costly to do. And to add to what the guy said, from the other end, you need governments to start saying it is no longer an option for you to dispose this material. We got a job request to recycle 170 tons of hand sanitizer. Of one product, 170 tons of that.
Hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer, because they made too many.
Was it the bottles or the sanitizer itself?
The pump type,
Yeah.
ready for sale. And because they've made so many for COVID, they had 170 tons that expired. Anything that touches the skin or is consumed can expire. And they rejected our offer and dumped the material in the landfill. So I can't enforce this company to come and use my service as the only service provider in Kuwait, but the government can.
With
So
the regulation, you need a
it's
regulation.
Regulation and education, it's the two things together.
Yep, thank you, my Andre, and perhaps this is for Ali again the same question. How do you think collaboration with the retailers? I mean, what are the prospects of collaboration with retailers to promote transforming retail waste into profit? From your current experience, from what are you looking for in your future engagement with retailers? Can you explain a little bit more?
Sure. We have pre-consumer and post-consumer when it comes to retailers nowadays. Pre-consumer, what was not sold, leftovers, overstock, etc. And then as well customer returns and what I just explained, the take-back system. When retailers stand up and say, we take the responsibility on, bring us your unwanted, not used items back, and we will take care of it. So we look into both of that, obviously. So in some areas you make more profit, in others less, or what we just discussed, even some losses. So it's a mixed calculation for us, obviously.
Aliou, the same question. I think your supplier is a retailer, and I don't know, maybe your customer as well as another retailer. So
Yeah, so here I just like to give an example of what we did with Al Shaya already, experimented by turning perfumes and body mist into surface disinfectants that can kill 99% of germs. This is something that they really helped us to experiment and develop, and now it is practical. And I think we've already shipped the first IBC to one of our customers, and they're using it to clean their floors. Saves them money, yes, of course, we charge them a little bit, but at the end of the day, it saves them money by the fact that they don't have to buy new cleaning materials. It's collaboration like this that enables innovation from our side to happen. And sometimes it takes time, sometimes it's immediate. But then again, we see so many examples in our business where there's no way we would have been able to come up with those types of solutions without that kind of collaboration. And it extends to people like Walid as well, that we have been in discussions for a long time on. And we're both, from our own points of view, trying to make sure that we tag along and we collaborate fully with Seneca and her team to make sure that there's a win-win-win situation for everybody.
Yep, thank you. My last question is about technology, innovation, and perhaps policy that you think can play a major role in promoting this sector. And I would start, because you're holding the microphone, whatever, you can start, yes, sure. Please. Yes, go ahead. And if you want to focus more on policy, so this is for my own personal gain.
Interestingly enough, policy-wise, from a UAE perspective, I'll just highlight that there's already a UAE circular economy policy. I'm very satisfied with that. We were consulted a couple of weeks ago about the upcoming UAE circular economy lab. Even Dubai has its own circular economy policy. We work a lot with Dubai municipality, for example, and there's no shortage of policies. What I would like to see is a little bit more enforcement and implementation of those policies. Imagine when we started our idea on a piece of paper, how many times did the door get closed on us with, the authorities, first of all?
I don't want to look there.
Exactly. I can give you so many examples where at first the challenge was that the policies were a little bit, so the speed of change or evolution of the policies wasn't there. I think we're there now. If there's one thing from your point of view, I would say let's already implement what already exists. We are almost there in terms of catching up with regions like the EU. There are so many policies coming up, EPR as we have heard, and we just need a little bit extra push.
Yes, thank you, Andre.
Sure, I would love to combine it if that's okay. Innovation is taking place because there is a demand or somebody is pushing, push or pull. So at the moment we don't have this pull principle so much from the fashion industry that they say give us more recycling. It's there but to a certain degree only. So if lawmakers push it, then they have to do it. So a good friend of mine said, when do people recycle? When it's the law.
Yeah, thank you. Seneca, can you pass the microphone to Walid? You'll be the last one to answer.
No, I honestly, yes, again, regulation, of course, but I want to put weight on the retailers and HQs, companies in general. People should be held responsible for what they do. So I think enforcing companies to act in certain ways, which is what we're heading into, is paramount. Last week we were in a meeting where one of the largest juice producers in Kuwait was begging us to solve their Tetra Pak problem. They produce 600 tons a year of wastage material of Tetra Pak. And they're already at 75% recycle rates, which I was astonished that they'd reached that point. And after delving into it, I realized it's because they're policing themselves. It's because they want to be a zero waste genuinely and compete internationally. So it's going to be a push or pull in multiple directions at the same time for it to actually be a reality. But thankfully from the support of some larger companies to companies like ours for requiring these services, we're able to invest in machinery, expand. Congrats to the expansion, Aliyu. We've gone through 2 expansions while offering the service to Ashaya. So yeah, education, regulation, self-policing.
I like the issue of they want to compete internationally, and this is very important. Seneca, I know with the big network of retailers you've got, what do you expect from governments like us? What do you expect in terms of policy? And at the very same time, how do you see innovative solutions like those that we've seen in the previous session? Maybe not all of you were here. So first, I would like you to focus a little bit about policy and regulation, and second, we'll talk about innovation in light of what the people that you've met with recently.
In terms of policy, the UAE is moving very quickly, but we're not seeing that pace elsewhere. We're seeing changes, but the pace is not as fast. So I think, as Walid said, we need the pace to speed up in other countries. When we're specifically talking about the UAE, I think we need the pace to slow down. We need to find that balance because we don't have the infrastructure here, and it does require a lot of collaboration, and it requires a lot of we have to change a lot of internal processes, to be quite honest with you, in order to make these things work. So we need the right amount of time to do it. But I do recognize that we do have to work with some urgency, but we need the right amount of urgency so that we can do it properly. So that's kind of my take on the legislation side. And in terms of innovation, this is why I work with these guys. And I think as retailers, and especially the size of retailers that we are in this region, we get stuck with, we have to use the big guy. We have to use the name brand. They're gonna be the ones that are gonna help us. They're gonna be, but they're not. The people that are gonna bring innovation are these guys. It's gonna be these small, agile companies who, this is what they do. And as Walid and as Ali, you talked about, they can flex with your business. They can find solutions for your business. So we need to, if we want innovation, we can't go to the big guys. We can't go to the people that we already know. We have to start looking for these small guys and supporting these smaller businesses, these SMEs, to grow and to flex with us. Because this is new for everybody, and these guys have all of the innovation.
Thank you very much. I think we have maybe 3-4 minutes for any questions from anyone in the audience. If you are interested to ask any question for our panelists. Any question? Muhammad? Yeah. Yes.
Hi there. I realize this session is about profit, but I guess I'm just curious to know what your thoughts are on maybe the opinion that this activity doesn't do much for reducing production, and that it's fueling overproduction because it's basically a way of just saying, oh, well, it's okay because we're recycling it and we're making money from that.
Thank you for this question. I mentioned in my introduction that I would love to focus on avoidance. Avoid the material flow in the first place. Reduce packaging. I would ask Seneca to help answer that question from a corporate perspective. I don't want to talk to the others because they are looking for additional feedstock. So let's talk with the producers.
So this is part of an overall strategy. This isn't the only strategy. There's going to be an amount of waste that's going to be there, regardless of what we do, what we try. We're gonna have stores, right? The stores are gonna close. We're gonna have to do something with that. But what this is about the waste that we do have. How do we optimize what happens to it? And we live where we live in the world that we live in. What really motivates business is the bottom line. That's what's motivating. So when the organizations are making these decisions, they're making these decisions based on the bottom line. So in order to incentivize the change that we want to see, we have to have options for making the right decision. And unfortunately, that's the world we live in. When we get to another place, we will. But from our perspective, we're trying to reuse materials in our stores. And that's one of the things that we do. So for our construction, where we can reuse construction materials, fit out, furniture, we actually reuse them internally.
One more question.
For things that can't be used, we've created a garage sale internally for furniture from our old stores. So we sell it to our staff at like really super cheap amounts, so that those things aren't going into any stream. They're not going to be recycled. They're not going into anything. With Walid is wonderful. He sells everything. Like I don't know how he does it, but he finds people to buy literally everything. Poles, hangers, everything. So we're not necessarily dismantling and recycling everything for the materials. We're trying, reuse is our first option always. Yeah.
Thank you, Seneca. Next question by my colleague, Muhammad.
A question to anyone of them. I don't know who's going to be answering this.
Let me think about that.
Yeah, you think about it. Yeah, you were my boss. You can think about it. You just mentioned, most of you just mentioned infrastructure, and I love this word and I hate it at the same time. This is a real challenge in the UAE, but I can't get. However, I've been working in the waste management for the last 12 years, maybe with Munir, and on lots of policy and regulation and maybe strategies, but we couldn't understand yet what does the companies like you guys mean by infrastructure. Is it the facility? Is it the collection infrastructure? Is it recycling, life cycle infrastructure? What is it exactly? So if you can, any one of you, if you can elaborate exactly what are you looking in terms of infrastructure?
Hmm?
I'm going to answer first because this is one of the biggest challenges we have, is that I have stores in Abu Dhabi, I have stores in Sharjah, I have stores in Dubai, I have stores all over, right? I can't move waste anywhere. I can't move waste. It's very difficult for me to move that stuff to be recycled to somewhere where it can be recycled. We've spent over a year just with textiles. How do we get the textiles that we're collecting in Abu Dhabi or Al Ain, or how do we get those from there to our warehouse so that it can be consolidated? Because for us, the cost is too much for us to have somebody go to each and every store. We can't do that. We need to consolidate everything in the warehouse so that it can be all picked up and taken to the facility. Because the facilities are in, Sharjah, Free Zone, and those kinds of places. So as retailers, we need it to be easier for us to consolidate our recyclable goods into one place and move them across the Emirates, specifically from my perspective.
Aliyo.
So, a very tough question, by the way. We've spent the last several months going around the whole of UAE, except maybe much of Abu Dhabi.
That's why.
No, there's a reason for that. Right now we're in Dubai Science Park, and it's a logistics warehouse that we retrofitted at great expense. When you're a startup, what do you focus on? Paying the rent or paying for innovation, because that has a cost as well.
Yeah.
And this is where we started. When we collected the key to our first 4,000 square foot warehouse, it took us months, not to come up with the business plan, but to find somewhere that we could compost waste with technology.
Yeah.
Then we spent, oh my God, I don't want to even say it, trying to convince the Baladia that, yeah, this is technology that's already tested in Australia and Southeast Asia. No. Tadwir, go to Warsan area. We've gone all the way to Al Quwain looking for a facility that could handle what it is that we do. Everything is everything is built for logistics or some other area. Or when we try to explain, they tell us, okay, go get a flexi desk somewhere. We're not looking for a flexi desk. We're looking for a facility. We've gone to the lengths of trying to get land in Dubai Industrial City. But again, we are still a startup, huh? When we buy land, then we went to the designers downtown, and we even have mock-ups. Millions and millions of dirhams. What are we going to focus on? Helping her solve her problems, or spending insane amounts of money, or going through the financiers, for example, and doing so much paperwork? There's endless amounts of money out there that just doesn't seem to be accessible. So what is it that startups are supposed to focus on? Infrastructure. If again, I'm not trying to push it to the authorities or to the governments. As entrepreneurs, we're used to solving problems, and we're used to being faced with these daunting tasks, and we're very close to solving ours. But again, when you want an economy to develop, like when we started, there's still, I think, nothing like to differentiate us. We have a recycling license. We actually don't like to call ourselves a recycling company because circular economy company. We still are confused with BIA and Tadweer and Mr. Skips. That's not what we are. You know, this is all a function of that bottom line where you need to make sure that you facilitate for startups, not just us, but anyone with some sort of innovation. I can tell you not just our story, but the story of an entrepreneur that makes soap from camel milk. I can tell you many entrepreneurs that have left one emirate to go to another emirate, I'm not going to call names, because they spent the money, but then that's it. The power wasn't enough for the machineries that they wanted to import, and so on and so forth. I don't want to hog the mic, but there's so much when it comes to infrastructure.
Well, thank you very much. I think we, with that challenging issue of resolving very local infrastructure challenges, we're coming to an end for our session. Ladies and gentlemen, we have feedstock. We are generating waste. We have retailers that they are producing waste. We have producers that they are supplying the retailers with material. We need to reduce the material flow. And we have innovative startups, small organizations and big organizations that they are dealing with pushing the circular economy portfolio further. What we're looking for is more education. What we're looking for is enhanced infrastructure. What we're looking for, better policies and regulations to be in place. And I could tell you from my personal experience, 3 years ago we were talking about plastic bags. Now we are talking about product recovery organizations and circular economy. I'm optimistic that the future, we are at the bottom of the ladder. We are gonna go up very quickly in this part of the world, and hopefully in the coming COP or coming events, we will be celebrating more successful figures about this region, and we can transfer knowledge from here to the rest of the world. Thank you very much, and a big round of applause to our panelists, and looking forward to see you. Thank you.